hello there, and today we will be interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, Gelotris. How are you doing?
Thank you, Harry. That's a great welcoming. I'm feeling very well. How are you?
I'm good. Busy studying and just having fun playing GeoGuessr, I guess, as usual. And
Let's go.
yourself?
Yeah, same. Also, didn't even take a break after the World Cup. I'm into the game again, grinding, and I actually got rate limited today. So I have to chill a bit, I guess.
Oh, that happened to
But,
me. I think it's when the GeoWizard video came out and everyone was trying to beat your score. I was like
mm,
resetting the seed so quickly that I couldn't play the next game. So let's jump straight into the first question. How did you find the entire experience of going to Stockholm, representing Turkey, and meeting all your online friends for the first time? How was the whole experience?
yeah, everything about it was great. We didn't know what to expect from the World Cup. It's like the first one ever. You couldn't look back at previous ones or something like that. And we all, I mean, I can speak for everyone. I think everyone was surprised how well it went. Was everything was so professional. So the production, like how they took care of us, how we arrived there, the accommodations, like everything was perfectly fine. Yeah, I think everyone really had a great time. And besides that, of course, meeting everyone was also really, really cool. I mean, I met a couple of people before, but not in that extent like on the World Cup.
Yep, there were so many. Like, I was so overwhelmed with the amount of people who were there. Like, because there was that many people. I feel like you couldn't meet as many as you couldn't really talk to as many because there were just so many you wanted to say hello to. Like, I barely got any pictures as well. Like, it's just so unbelievable. Like, so nothing like this happened before. Even like the Paris World Cup, that was massive in itself for a lot of creators and a lot of GeoGuessr players meeting each other first time. But this was like a completely different level. I remember when I arrived, I think I was the first person who was meant to be in the right place, and I remember like going through all like the camera work and just almost tripping over everything. I
Mm.
had to get told to go back to like the bar and the couch pretty much. I was like, okay. So if there was any videos of just a random person just randomly going through the camera shots, it will be me.
Okay.
But
Wasn't the first time you got lost there, right?
true. Yeah, I did. But that was with a bit too much to drink, so there's a bit more excuse for
Yeah.
that one.
Same issue. I couldn't especially as a player. I mean, there were moments where I was like, I wish I was a viewer and didn't have to do this and that and could just talk to people. Yeah, there was not too much time for that for us. And also with the pictures, I took maybe 20 pictures
That's probably like
over the whole.
that's probably like 18 more than me. So
Yeah. It's
and you were
yeah, I tried
playing,
my
so
best.
like that obviously takes a lot of time because you were preparing, you were getting warmed up. When did you arrive in Stockholm? Was it the day before, or was it a couple of days before
It
the
was
first
two
day?
days before.
Okay, so you had time to
Yeah.
settle, so
Yeah,
it's not too much.
kinda. I mean, we arrived. I was on the same flight with Kodiak
Yep.
from Düsseldorf, and we arrived and was maybe 2 hours or 3 hours before our schedule started. And then it
All
was
right, yeah.
so tight over all the days. I mean, we also had some meetups with the devs the days before and stuff like that. I mean, that was also fun. So
Nice,
not
nice,
like
nice.
I missed out on anything.
Yeah, because you had all the media stuff as well before the
hmm
World Cup of all the shots and the quick clips and the
hmm
posts. I think the very first person actually that actually said hello to or shook hands with was you. I don't know if you remember, but you're the
Yeah,
very
at the
first
bar.
person
Yeah.
to come over and say hello and shake my hand at the bar. That was the very first interaction with anyone in the community, so I'll always remember that. That
That's
was
cool.
that was amazing. Who did you first like meet? Who was the first person you ever met? I presume it might have been one of the German lads,
Mm,
or was it
outside
somebody
of the
else?
players or
Um,
with the players?
just
Because,
players or anyone in the community, kinda.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I took the flight with Kodiak, so I met him at the airport. I think Oscar, Zigzag was one of the
Oh,
very first,
nice.
together with his friends in the lobby, in the hotel lobby. Yeah, I think that was the first person.
Good old zigzag. I mean, fair play to him,
Yeah.
like traveling that far. Like he must have been absolutely knackered when he arrived for the media day.
Yeah, I
Oh,
felt bad for all the people coming from so far away with the
yeah.
jet lags and all that stuff. It's kind of rough.
But it was quite cool because like Zigzag, Trabota, they both played very well despite all that travel distance. You think they have a bit of they be very tired. They might not be 100% with it, but they did extremely well despite that. And that could have easily had an impact on them. And maybe they could have even done better next time. But to me, like they played extraordinarily well. and
Yeah.
Zigzag proved a lot of people wrong, like you can do it. And talk about that, you proved a lot of people wrong as well. I think a lot of people kind of didn't think of you too much, and I feel like they definitely underrated you for the World Cup. And you did amazing, man. Like I'm very proud of how well you did actually, because that was a tough group you were in. How did you
Yeah.
find the group games?
I mean, first off, I can understand that because I don't really play in like tournaments. I don't do videos. I mostly play for my own, so people can't really tell how well or how bad I am. But yeah, with the group, it was kind of rough. I mean, I had Consus in my group. I had Trabota in my group. Like those two people, I already was like, okay, I will ignore them in my group. I will focus on the other people. The very first match was against Kodiak, which was also funny. Like we traveled together, and then the very first match was against him. And I
Yeah,
think Kodiak and me are like kind of equal on the skill set we have.
yeah,
So I really tried my best winning against Kodiak because that was my only hope to get through the group stage. And besides that, it was Meckham and Quarks who were also in the group. And it was actually super close against Meckham. I survived with 11 HP on the second
oh my
game.
god.
He won the first moving game. And then on the second game, I survived with 11 HP. Then the other round was in Santa Ana in California. And I saw it on the wall. It was like written very small.
Yep,
Clicked inside Santa Ana, got closer, survived. And the next round was Brazil on multis, where I was
yeah,
closer and I turned it around. So that was super close.
yeah, great
Um,
comeback. Good clutch, good clutch.
yeah, it was a good group with a lot of good games. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I experienced what happened in Group A because we were playing simultaneously.
yeah,
So on my left I had Tapotic, and on my right was sitting Alok. So I
yeah.
kind of like in between games I was like looking over
Oh
what's
god.
happening in Group A and stuff like that, and I could tell it's like super intense and close
Yeah.
on their games where it was like someone has to lose, someone has to win, someone has to get less points, stuff like that.
And all the
Yeah.
cameras zooming in and zooming out of Topotic. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, yeah, I saw some clips. I saw some clips. I didn't
Yeah.
actually watch the whole VOD. Obviously, it's like way too long.
Oh, it's long. Yeah, yeah.
But I tried to look like for some clips.
How would you find like the final day?
Yeah, I was like before it all started, I was like maybe on day one, I will get a bit less nervous if we are going to day two. But you can't compare day two to day one because we were just sitting there. The only one
Yeah.
watching at us was the cameraman with his camera in front of us.
Yeah.
And then on the second day, it was like a complete different experience, of course, with a real audience, and the production was like way different. It was a whole another level of like how intense it was then, because
Yeah.
you had way more pressure. I mean, I'm not too nervous of a guy. Like I don't get
Mm.
too nervous,
Yeah.
but still having all those people sitting there watching you is
Yeah.
different.
It's like almost intimidating, I guess, at times. Like it's just all eyes on you, all the cameras on you. Like it's never happened before either. Like it's different to sit in like for example like a rainbow tournament. Like you get used to rainbow tournaments. You'll generally team up, but you're on your own. That was also different in the World Cup. You're on your own. It was all down to you. So you have all that pressure down to yourself, nobody else. When it's actually the second day, you have people watching you. I don't know. I feel like even if you're you're not nervous, you'll probably still feel something. And it's like just trying to lock in, just zone into the screen. I feel like once a few rounds happen, you can definitely tell people are really, locked in more. You could tell when the big rounds happened, where one bad guess happened. It took a few of them to get, few of the players to like get back into the rhythm. Like
Mm,
there's only a couple examples I would say, like probably Consus and in most instances Fungus. Those are the two standouts to me. Like Fungus I feel like he did feel the pressure on the Consus NMPZ round in Russia, because he could have won on Alabama and he just missed out, and then he had the Russia round where it was just all on the same road. It was just whoever was closer, and he guessed quite early, so like, if he actually spent more time, kept a cool head, he probably tried to line it up better. But those two lads were probably the main reason why they got so far in the first place. Obviously, they're extremely talented. Like anyone in the last day is really talented to get themselves into that position. Yeah, like pressure has a massive element. It's different. Like day two, anything can happen, especially when you get a horrific Russia round or Brazil round. Like that could be a complete game changer, no matter what, because of the multipliers.
yeah,
But yeah,
luckily I didn't have to deal with that. I think on my games on day two, I didn't have any big country besides Russia.
yeah,
But that was very straightforward Ulanut, so It
Hmm.
wasn't too difficult. On my games, I mean, I only had one game on day two against Blinky.
Yeah.
And I think most of the rounds were like very default rounds where it only mattered to get a bit closer. It wasn't like coming down to very big countries. So I was happy about that. I couldn't blunder too much.
Yeah, yeah. Like one thing I noticed in the games, actually, talk about the actual seeds, is there are lots of rounds where the country was gettable like 99% of the time. Even on NMPZ, I feel like it was quite common in the games. It was more to do with the region or the 5Ks. Like we didn't really have any super hard rounds where we didn't know the country. We didn't really have as many big countries as often either. I remember watching the Topotic and Tribota qualifier on the playoff, sorry, and they had two indoors, and that had a massive benefit for Tribota. But then when Tribota played Radu, there was no Indonesia, there was barely any Malaysia, and Radu was on peak form. So like, if maybe had more Indonesia, then Tribota would have benefited more. And the same case for any country. I don't remember seeing Brazil that often in the on the final on the second day either. Don't doesn't ring a bell.
In
So
general, I think there was very little Brazil.
yeah, there was a lot of Europe. So
Hmm.
but
Yeah, it really got tested how you also do well in like other smaller countries because like when preparing for the World Cup, like most people were like was like only preparing for like big countries. Everyone
yeah.
was practicing Canada, US, Brazil, Russia, always these big countries. But I think like countries like New Zealand, who like
Mm.
no one really practiced too much, could have affected a lot in terms of the games because it was showing up quite often, especially in the
Mm.
last couple games.
Yeah, especially with Fungus. Like Fungus and Consus had two very nice New Zealand guesses, didn't they? I think Consus had the one east of Christchurch, that volcanic kind of like
Hmm.
region thing. Like I never seem to get right. But yeah, that was a good thing. I feel like it's good to get good at the smaller countries as well. Like even if they don't come up as often, or let's say the big countries come up more often next time, those sort of margins can make a difference. Like it could be like 300, 400, 800 points. Like that could, if it's a close game, that can make a difference. Obviously, moving is a bit of a different ball game if you're against Blinky though. That's gonna just be much more difficult
True.
unless you get early and and hope
Yeah, that's
enough
what I try
information.
to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the format also like plays a big role in that.
Hmm.
Because with the ramping multiplayers, you usually don't have that in other formats, so people don't care too much about small countries. So the
Yeah.
format really made it in a way where that was important to know.
And 10 rounds as well. Like with 10 rounders, like you could be doing fine at the start, and then you're in the lead, and then round 9, round 10, where it's 5.5 is where it's most damaging. You get a big country, like all those other rounds don't matter. But
Yeah,
then you
or the
can,
other way around,
oh, the
where
other
the
way
last
around, yeah.
two countries are just like Luxembourg and some Baltics, and then you don't have a comeback. And that's also what happened with my no move game against Blinky, where we were at round eight, and it was Portugal.
Yep, yep, yep.
And I had to turn the game, and I had to risk going like max health because I knew it's only like two rounds left, and if there's no big country, I can't come back. So
Yeah.
you definitely make like some weird, different guesses with that format than you would have done in other formats, for sure.
So
Yeah, that was
yeah.
also a big part for me, like dealing with the format because I don't have too much experience with duels in general. I don't
Yeah.
really play comp. I don't play any duels. And I also have never played a 1v1 tournament ever. I always only
Hmm.
participated in team duels
Okay, yeah.
with other people. So that was like a very different thing for me. That also had a big impact. How nervous I was, like not that nervous, but still, like it was something completely different for me. Yeah, we
Yeah.
really had to lock in for sure. Like sitting there on your own, especially
Yeah.
like in a lot of countries, it comes to it's either there or there,
Hmm.
or maybe there. And with team duels, you just send those three places or two places. But being on your own, you have to be like really locked in and think through what makes the most sense.
Hmm.
And yeah, you're kind of in a tunnel vision, like sitting there, everyone watching, you're on your own, you are like really in a tunnel vision. Like some people asked me, could you hear the audience? How was the noise cancellation, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I couldn't really give an answer because you don't even realize you could like feel the crowd. And
Yeah.
when they were applauding, stuff like that, you feel it. but I couldn't tell if I could hear anything or not because I was so in a tunnel vision and so focused and so locked in on my screen that you just turn off everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that you only have 10 rounds, you have 10 rounds to do it. Like, it's not like, oh, this could be 20, this could be a very long time. You need to be focused on time. You're like, there's 10 rounds, they have a minute timer or whatever the timer was. You have that time and that is it. You can take one round at a time, and once you pass 10 rounds, it's over. It's not like you have to worry about, oh, but if it reaches round 12, then the multipliers are just that mad, then anything can happen. So let's
Yeah,
just
that
try and
was
get the
pretty
games.
good. That was
Yeah.
pretty good. You always could like expect the game length.
Yeah.
That was actually a benefit. Hmm.
If you had to pick the most memorable moments or the best moments during your entire time in Stockholm and in the World Cup, what would they be?
The most memorable one is, I think, like, yeah, for sure when Consus won. Like when
Yes.
the crowd was like going crazy and Tim picking up the trophy, when you know it's over and we all made it through, Consus won. That was very memorable, like crazy moment. I was like sitting very much like on the edge of the crowd, like on the most right corner. Like from there you could see the crowd and Consus, and like seeing both made the view so amazing and so memorable for me. Was like kind of crazy. Like if you think I never like played GeoGuessr too competitive, but I really enjoy playing it. And like, of course, if you enjoy something, you automatically get good at it. But yeah, but like sitting there and seeing what also can happen, like how big it can get, was like
Yeah.
kind of crazy to see.
And to think like 2 years ago, would we think this would happen? Probably not. And to see like
Not
how
at all.
much has changed in 2 years is absolutely mental. And the fact of how many people were watching, like I think it was like over 50,000 or something in like if you take everything into account, like all those eyes onto the event, it's just unbelievable. And to
Yeah.
get players in, treat them well, and for the audience, for even to have a live audience, the first ever esports, and it to be, you know, exceed expectations. Usually the first event, you don't give too much expectation because it's the first one. It's great for it to happen. And we said it already, but it was almost like I was just shocked at how good it was. Like I'm like, I would just say I just wanted to come to see the players and support them and meet many people. And if the production is amazing, then bonus. If it's okay, then it's okay. It's the first time. Just the whole thing, I think, just motivated a lot of current players as well as the new wave of players. But I feel like a lot of current players have come back to the game or think, you know what, I want to play more, I want to learn more. It's just like, well, it's almost like a once in a lifetime kind of thing to see. Like, we won't see that moment ever again. Maybe Matt lift the trophy again another time, or it might be somebody else lift the trophy. But the first ever one will always be special because it's never happened before.
Yeah.
And the amount of people there who've been in the community for so long, cheering them on, playing, whether they're playing or in the crowds, just you can't really beat it, can you? You can't.
Nah, it's hard to beat. I mean, we also don't know if it's like gonna be maybe a team format next year or if it's again one versus one. That will
Yeah,
also like make a huge difference on how intense it will be, and but it will allow more players to get into it, which is also kind of cool. Like if you're from the Netherlands, you don't have to worry about being the best, being better than Kansas. You
true.
can also be like second or third best to make it to the World Cup. That would be pretty cool.
Yep. I would really love a team duels because I mean, it would give me a better chance, but there are so many, there are actually so many talented UK players because they're not content creators. They don't really get as much spotlight, but when you play against them and like Rowan as well, like he's especially more established with all the pro players. Like they're gifted, they're talented, and for one of them to get an opportunity would be amazing. But like if it's a 2v3, 2v2, 3v3, depending if that does happen, that would be amazing. And also gives me a better chance because it's really hard to compete and be the one of the country. And with like Wolf, GC, and the other lads, it's just like it's tough. Like I want them to go as well, but like
Yeah, if there are already like existing really good players in your country
yeah,
and they won't stop playing, then it's hard because they can only get better, you know. It's like you
exactly,
have
yeah,
to like it's really hard to keep up with the top players. I mean, I am in an advantage. Turkish community is like not too big for now, but it's growing. Like
yeah.
this year, we created a Discord server for the
Oh,
Turkish
nice.
community,
Yes. Oh,
and
brilliant.
it's growing very quick. So you see people joining every day, and there are also some people who play it more competitively. like seeing that is pretty great. So maybe there
Yeah,
will
nice.
be more of a competition for me than
Nice. Talking about
be the
that,
best.
we actually, me, GC, and Wolf are actually getting a UK community channel sorted on YouTube soon. So,
Oh, that's cool. That's
yeah.
nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, especially like for new players, it's really important to have a community to get into the game because the game is nothing without a community, honestly. Like no one will play it on their own and like get good on their own. It's like always people you meet and share your gameplay with, your
Yes.
thoughts with, and that's not only the part that makes it more fun, it's also how you like get way better because you can just look at others, ask stuff, teach them stuff, and grow together. So
Yeah.
yeah, having a community is pretty great.
Let's say if you're a new player and you've just started playing, you might have played a few rounds or whatever, but you've been inspired by the World Cup, you start playing GeoGuessr more. What would your advice be for those players to stay in the game and also improve as a player?
I think there are a lot of ways, but for me, the most effective way, I think, is to start with small regions of the world. Like maybe start with Europe and get good at Europe, and then start with Asia. The next week you play a little bit of North America, the next week you play South America, and that is the best way to, I don't know, get a feel for where you are and which continent you are first, and then maybe play country maps. I think playing country maps really helps you recognizing them when they get in world maps. So like looking at me, I think like I practice a lot of Turkey. Sometimes I think like if I put the same time in other countries, I will get good at them as well. And like if I put that time in every country, I will just be the best player alive. But of course, it's a matter of time, and the amount of time I put into Turkey is just too much to put in other countries. But of course, you don't have to commit that much into a country. It already helps if you play like a week of this country, a week of this country, a week of this country. That way, I feel like it will be way easier to recognize them while playing World Map.
Like it's good like you focus on the constants and we have so many guides but there's so much information. I felt the biggest challenge for new players or returning players that kind of miss that wave is catching up and learning the stuff but not overwhelming themselves. And like your example of focusing on constants once a week, focus for a week on a constant and do some country maps. It gives you an opportunity to work out clues yourself, and it could be landscape. It could even be things like, oh, these like reflective things aside the road. They look different to when I was in this other country, and then you've realised what things to look for in that country to identify it without even
Like,
reading up. And of course, it's
yeah,
great to read up, but
if you played like a week of, let's say, Germany, you know how German bollards look like, and you will realize that there are only these bollards and no other bollards. So you will pick up that way better by playing one country. Of course, it's a mix of everything. Of course, the documents also help a lot. I think finding a good mix between looking through these documents and then play these countries is really the key.
because there's two kind of sides to GeoGuessr really. There's the memory side where you try and memorize things, and there's the other side where it's more instinctive and systematic. It's like you don't even need to think. It's just okay, it's here. Like you don't even need to put things into equation. You need to remember things. You just like I know all this, it's here. And playing the game and recognizing countries, straight away is something you can't really memorize. You have to just play. And there's other aspects where like it could be something as simple as area codes or certain regional clues that you may have to memorize more, but that could be left to later. You don't If you're a newer player, it's good to specialize in the country, but don't go too far ahead in yourself unless you'll be able to manage it. Because even myself, I remember trying to study Russian like a year ago almost, and I wasn't really ready for it. I wasn't really motivated to do it properly. I started learning it and learning really specific stuff, and I'm like, I'm burnt out. I'm finished. I want 3 weeks off. I'm done with this. I'm doing all this and it's not working. And a year from now, a year onwards, I've definitely built up as a player, and I think all of us have who've been regularly playing. And it's more feasible now because you're more used to the black and white stuff, the stuff that you should cover at the beginning, and then you get to that point later. And to have that patience in yourself as building up as a player is very important.
Yeah, I think it also like really depends on the country you're studying, like whether the country has like diverse landscape. Prime example again, Turkey. Like some people ask me, can you give me tips? How do I recognize this? How do I recognize this? And it's to me, it's just landscape. You see this landscape a lot of times there. You see this landscape a lot of times there, and just picking up these kind of things hard to teach. So like you said, you just really have to play and see stuff a lot. but that only applies to countries with very diverse landscape. I would say like
Yeah,
Spain, maybe, or Chile, Turkey, for example, are these type of countries where you have really distinct looking landscapes here and there,
yeah.
where you can also apply it. But if you are going into Russia, there's like very little instances where you really can use landscape
And
more
it's
about
almost
anything
like
else.
road learning and meta learning, and that's
Hmm.
more it's more effort. I feel like it's more effort to learn that stuff. Whereas landscapes, you play enough, you'll get familiarized. It's like with quite an extreme example. Back in the day, people didn't recognize the Sawtooth Mountains, and it could be something as a country like a landscape you find in the country a lot, and a lot most experienced or players who've been playing for a good few months, they would instantly recognize that because they familiarize themselves with those, like with Lesotho's landscape. How about if someone's kind of experienced, like let's say they've been playing GeoGuessr for like over a year and a half, what would your advice be for those players to get better? Like they've know the countries, they're able to identify countries comfortably, but it's more down to the region guessing they're struggling with.
I think it's the same advice I would give them as to the new players to like really specify in some regions because I take the example again because I play Turkey a lot. Like, for instance, I can tell like some people, the average player, has some struggles with 50-50s between like let's say Spain and Turkey. If you don't have any hard clues,
Yeah,
you can kind of like get those tricked or other Mediterranean countries. And that doesn't happen to me that much. Of course, it happens, but doesn't
yeah,
happen that much to me because I focus on one country. So focusing on one country doesn't really only give you the advantage to be good inside this country, it also gives you the advantage of ruling out a country. So I think it's pretty good to specify in some countries. Like I said, don't commit too much, but at least like have some big countries or some countries you often mix up with other countries. Specify on those, like really practice them for a couple weeks. I think that will already help to first off rule them out or rule them in,
yeah.
and also guess inside them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because, especially Europe, I think Europe's very underlooked. Like, there's a lot of information, but I feel like nobody really pays attention as much to the country identifying side of Europe now. Like, everyone's focused on South America, Russia, Australia. Like, it's not really focused on. You get those hard Italy, Spain, France, or Portugal. Like, you can even muddle up Spain with Greece at times. Like, it's like getting those rounds are catch a lot of really good players out. And like I say, if you just look at the country more, you'll see certain visuals, see landscapes, you'll see like anything man-made influence that will lean away. Like for example, I think on a video I did on one of my competitions, we had a North Macedonia round, and every single player went Greece. Every single player went Greece. Like, and these are really good players. It's like Trickter, Wolf, myself, so many great players like Amon as well. All of us went Greece or North Macedonia. I look back at the round. I was like, okay, wooden poles, yeah, that's why I went Greece. But then they had alternate insulators, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit strange. The architecture looks similar, but something's off. That ridge was weird. It was like having a Croatian ridge in Greece. It was very confusing. And the way you can get good at North Macedonia, for example, is just looking into it. And it's a very small country, but it
Also,
might
only
save
a
you a lot of
few
health.
roads. Also, the
Exactly,
amount
yeah.
of coverage that plays a big role in like learning countries. Like not
Yeah.
only looking at the size of the country, also looking at the coverage density. And therefore, North Macedonia, I've practiced North Macedonia. It was like one of the first countries I actually learned. So like learning them is again that way I could have maybe, I don't know, the round you were talking about, of course, but like seeing the roads a lot would have maybe helped to like recognize it again.
Yeah.
And also like stuff like coverage types and road quality is
Hmm.
something you only pick up by playing and not by looking into documents or like
Yeah.
that. It's not something you can teach. It's a feel you
Yeah.
get.
Or just looking on Street View, there's that as well. Like, because that's what I did for Botswana. Is there's a lot of like roads that might look very similar to South Africa, and if you get familiarised with that road or know which side of the poles they're on, you can rule out that similarity as well with South Africa
Hmm.
because that catches out a lot of good players as well. Even now is the Gen 3 South Africa and Gen 3 Botswana border. Like, if you get familiarised with that and know where the coverage is, and you will see certain things that you won't see, you can make a difference. And like North Macedonia is a good example where people might think, oh, it's only a small country, you won't really lose health. But if you're split between North Macedonia, the entirety of Greece, for example, if you go South Greece and it's North Macedonia, then obviously that's pretty big damage.
Yep.
So it's you have to even the small countries you have to think about in terms of you need to get these countries right. And if you're thinking of any other big countries that are quite far away, then obviously that could be a danger. And that's the beauty of it. Like there's always, I feel that gives a lot more validity to the European countries, for example. Like it's not really as thought of in the community as often. I feel like there's a lot of information out there, but people don't prioritize it enough. And if there's anybody watching this, I feel like a good hint is, like including Turkey as well, is Europe's is probably a great place to start and to get country ID in European countries. That will make a massive difference. Even if you're against experienced players, there's a lot of experienced players that do a lot of mistakes with similar European countries. Have you got any final words to say to end the interview, Gelotris? Anything you want to talk about, the World Cup or anything, or along those lines?
There's not really much to say. Like I said, I'm super happy it happened, and I'm really looking forward for the next one. Happy about the community as well. Like you, for example, making those interviews. We have to really thank Rainbow. He had a huge impact
Yes.
on making that game, like bringing that game to a stage where it is right now. I don't know if the World Cup would have happened without him, honestly. Like he made that game super popular, super competitive, and
Yeah.
lead the right direction of it. And I want to thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Gelotris, for the interview. It was a great chat. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next one representing Turkey. It'll be great to see you again and see you boss it
I
out.
hope so. I hope so. Thank you for having me.